A man convicted of child abuse, aggravated murder, and felony homicide in the death of 3-year-old Khaleesi Kuthriel will be sentenced today in an Augusta County courtroom.
Colby, what can you tell us right now?
Yeah, Taylor, I'm here at the intersection of Garbers Church Road and Erickson Avenue. And Garbers Church Road, both entrances to it are closed as Harrisonburg police are investigating that alleged bomb threat at Harrisonburg High School. I'm here in Broadway at the intersection of Broadway Avenue and Atlantic Avenue. You can see that large police presence there behind me. And just moments ago, a few minutes ago, a man was taken into custody. I talked to several of the businesses in this area today, and each of them dealt with their own issues in the aftermath of the explosion, but 2 years later they're doing pretty well, and in some cases are better off than they were before the blast. The U.S. Forestry Service is optimistic that the worst of the Heavener Ridge fire is behind us. That fire, you can still see some of its smoke a little bit there in the distance behind me. It's on Heavener Mountain, about 3 miles east of Brandywine. In the last year, the Harrisonburg Police Department has ramped up its efforts to crack down on vehicle thefts. It says there are a number of things you can do to make sure your vehicle's protected, like parking in well-lit areas, and of course, always being sure to lock your vehicle.
In Franklin, West Virginia, a 61-year-old man, Lawrence Puffenbarger, known as Grasshopper in the community, was indicted on 7 felony charges of first-degree sexual abuse back in November.
WHSV's Colby Johnson spoke with some of the families of the victims in the case who say this alleged abuse has been going on for a long time. He's live now in the studio with us. Colby.
Chelsea and Kayla, Lawrence Puffenbarger is currently out of jail on a home incarceration bond where he's prohibited from having any contact with minors. Court records show all the victims in this case are under 12 years old.
There's a lot of people out there that are very concerned. They feel like this is going to be covered up. They feel like he is going to get off on this, what they say. And whether that be, the exam for the mental incapacity, I'm not sure. But what we want right now is just justice.
Cassie Atkins Peel and her family have been neighbors of Puffenbarger for 2 years. Her daughter is one of the victims in the case, and Peel has been advocating for her daughter and the other victims over the last several months. I spoke with another mother and her young daughter who wished to remain anonymous, so we distorted their voices to protect their identities.
There's definitely a lot of stress of not knowing and not feeling safe walking in your community, or letting your teenagers have that little bit of independency where they can go into a post office and check their own mail, or they can go into an eatery and have a milkshake with their friends before.
The victim I spoke with says that Puffenbarger groped her, and the family says there are many other victims besides those represented in the court case who have been afraid to come forward, and they believe the abuse in the community dates back many years.
Some of the victims, they can't really speak because they're scared, and they're too young to understand that he's doing all this, and they know it's too bad. So I would just want to speak for them.
They say people are afraid to speak out because Puffenbarger has deep roots and connections in the Franklin community.
I just want to reach out to the youth and the parents of the victims and say, you are not alone. You have people that are fighting for you behind the scenes.
The families say there has been a concerning lack of communication with the victims.
We can't deny justice. We also can't allow our children to sit here and know that justice hasn't been served, or other people in the community that may have these same ill intentions. And so I think that we need to show that, hey, the children are safe.
On Sunday, families in Franklin will hold a peaceful, silent walk through the town to show support for the victims. Puffenbarger's next court date has not yet been set as it is pending the results of a competency evaluation. Neither his attorney or Pendleton County prosecutor April Mallow could be reached for comment today.
Today, Rachel's loved ones are still holding out hope for some sort of closure.
WHSV's Colby Johnson spoke with her family to learn more about Rachel and her disappearance. He's live now in the studio with us tonight. Colby.
Yeah, Chelsea and Kayla, Virginia State Police say that Rachel's case is still an active criminal investigation, and they're still hopeful that justice will be served. I was able to sit down with Rachel's mother, Brenda Brown, who told me about her daughter's life and what she believes happened 20 years ago.
Rachel was a social butterfly. She never met a stranger. She was very gullible. She thought everybody was her friend. She would literally cry if somebody didn't like her.
20 years ago, on October 18th, Rachel Good's friend saw her for the last time. She had plans with a friend the next morning and never showed up. That's when her family went to the Rockingham County Sheriff's Office to report her missing.
The dispatcher said, "This is odd." She said, "We just got a phone call from the police officer in Elkton saying if anybody happens to come up here to file a missing persons report, to make sure that they are sent back down there to him."
So her family headed to Elkton, where they met with then Chief of Police Richard Poulin.
He takes and introduces me to Adam Williams and says, "This is the officer that'll be filing a missing persons report." So then we sit down, and the whole time that we're sitting there, Adam Williams gets the paper out, and he's shaking. He's shaking. I mean, he is shaking all over.
In the days that followed, everything turned on its head. Rachel's family learned from some of her friends and through letters found in her apartment that Rachel had been having an affair with Williams.
And it was just more and more information that was coming out, and we were finding out, that she had been, she was pregnant, and that he wanted her to get an abortion, and that she didn't.
The case was eventually turned over to Virginia State Police, and Adam Williams went from lead investigator to the prime suspect.
Everything's just been kind of jerked around, and then he got an attorney, and he pleaded the fifth and refused to do the lie detector's test.
In the weeks and months that followed, police searched far and wide for Rachel, but to no avail. Williams has remained the prime suspect, but to date, no charges have been filed.
I'll go somewhere and I'll sit and I'll watch young women walk by, and I reckon people think I'm crazy, but I think, why can't my daughter be out here? Why can't she be laughing and joking?
Rachel's father, Kerry, has his own theory about what happened to his daughter. He's filed a wrongful death suit against Williams, which is still open but has been stalled.
The Bible says all knees will bend and all mouths will confess. They're going to get caught. It might take 30 years or 40 years or 25 years or whatever, but it'll come to pass.
Rachel's mother doesn't believe her daughter will ever be found.
The Bible says, leave them alone, and vengeance is mine. And once you have blood on your hands, you can't run from yourself.
I did speak with Special Agent Chris Deploy of the Virginia State Police, who's the lead investigator on the case. He says the hope is that new technologies that have been developed and improved over the last 20 years can help get a breakthrough in the case, which remains active. Adam Williams was last known to be living in Louisiana. I reached out to his attorney for comment, but did not hear back. Anyone with information on the Rachel Good case is asked to call Agent Deploy. That number will be posted on our website later. Working hard for you, Colby Johnson, WHSV.
You knew at your lowest point, whenever that would be, Uncle Cotton would be there. Carlisle Whitelaw would be there at your lowest point. Carlisle Whitelaw would be there at your highest point, celebrating with you.
Bridgewater community is mourning the loss of one of its most beloved neighbors. Good evening, everyone. I'm Nina Barati.
And I'm Bob Greeby. Thank you so much for joining us. Carlisle Whitelaw passed away on Friday at Centera RMH from complications from COVID-19.
Whitelaw was Bridgewater College's first African-American athlete and later served as a coach and teacher there for many years.
WHSV's Colby Johnson has more on the legacy of one of Bridgewater's best.
He gave his time, passion, energy, love, support, financial or otherwise, to anybody he saw. It didn't matter what color, age, creed. It didn't matter. He was a lover.
Carlisle Whitelaw was a staple in Bridgewater for decades. For the last several years, he could be seen every morning in the Dairy Queen parking lot waving to everyone who passed.
Carlisle came as close to modeling what a person who calls himself a Christian could be, I think, closer than anybody ever knew. For him, it was 24/7, and it was to all people.
In his time at Bridgewater, Carlisle taught and coached football, basketball, and tennis. He leaves behind a lasting impact on the school.
Whether you were a student, you're a fellow coach, he kept you accountable, and I think he was good for many, many people, and was a mentor, he was a role model, he was all the things you expect somebody in that position of a coach and a teacher to be.
Carlisle grew up during the era of segregation, but always found a way to show kindness to those who showed hate.
I think it takes a remarkable person to go in and say, not only will I forgive what I've experienced, but I will treat you as a person I care about. And he did that. Remarkable man.
Carter Whitlow, Carlisle's nephew, says he's grateful for the Bridgewater community and hopes everyone will continue to honor his uncle simply by living the way he did.
Loving, leading, and living. And that's what we all need to do going forward. Smile more, laugh more, spread more joy. And, that's what he would want you to do.
In Bridgewater, Colby Johnson, WHSV.